And we're live. Awesome. All right. Thanks for joining, guys. I'm Pierce at Pipedream, and I help with developer relations here, and I'll be guiding you through today's webinar. I assume that you guys have built Pipedream workflows before, but we're going to do a quick introduction on Pipedream, what it is, how it's different from competitors, and give like a quick demo end-to-end of building a really basic workflow that that kind of highlights the ability to quickly develop, test, and deploy. That's very unique to Pipedream. First things first, let me share my screen. Okay, so the first thing you'll see in Pipedream is our products page, our projects page. A project is like one-to-one with a GitHub repository. Almost actually, literally, if you start to use the Pipedream GitHub sync feature. So for our demo, we're going to quickly create a new project, and we're going to call this weekly demo 1010. And like I said, you can configure with GitHub sync, and this will actually serialize your workflows contained in this project into code and actually sync them to a private or public GitHub repository. And this opens up the door to actually editing workflows within your IDE instead of within Pipedream itself. That's a whole other story. For this project, we're just going to do a simple one that has no connection to GitHub, but it works effectively the same. And you can see you can organize them in folders and workflows. The vast majority of our workflows are driven by webhooks, which you may have seen. And you can see we give a lot more control over creation of workflows, including timeouts and memory, and all kinds of other features I'm going to go into later that are more advanced down here. So for this workflow, we're going to create a notification system from Stripe, which is a very popular payment processor, into Slack. So we can get notifications on new orders or new revenue coming in, which is also very motivating. So to get started, we can choose from the HTTP webhook trigger, but I should mention that we have thousands of the connections that are supported. You can connect MySQL, you can connect MongoDB, you can connect third-party apps that support webhooks or do not. And I'll go into how that works in more detail, but just know that you can build your own triggers, or you can use our triggers out of the box, and they're all open source. So we're going to get started with an HTTP request. Let's say then continue here, and sorry, put that window out of the way. And we created a brand new URL that's unique to this workflow that will trigger it. So I'm going to copy this to my clipboard, and we can head over to Stripe. And under Stripe, I'm under the developer section here. Here you can create a webhook. So I'm going to click this add an endpoint and paste in our Pipedream workflow. And we can have it listen to events. I'm just going to have it listen to all events for now. I'll just have to pick a specific one. The one that I have set up is checkout session completed. This event is fired whenever someone completes a order on your custom checkout flow within Stripe. So I'll create this endpoint, and now, just like that, Stripe is connected to Pipedream, and it will trigger your workflow whenever that webhook event is emitted. Stripe is a great example because you can go to this developer screen and look at your events and actually resend them. Under the webhooks area, I believe so. I thought it was under the events. Yeah, so you click on one of these events and you can actually retry them, I believe. So resend, yeah. So I'm going to resend this event. Oh, I'm sorry, it no longer exists. So I guess they have a expiration date on events. No problem. So we'll go to our connected payment links. Here we go. So you can copy this payment link, and we'll just do a quick test transaction just to show you how to generate an event. This is a mocking a customer paying for one of your products. Could be a subscription, it could be a physical product, doesn't really matter. Stripe will fire an event when it receives payment. So we'll go back to our workflow here, and you can see, ta-da, it included the event from Stripe, and the amount of the order was $100. And we can see more details about the customer, the whole webhook JSON payload, which is really useful. It's much easier to read for developers to read JSON than not. And you can also generate a test event if you prefer. Say that you're setting up some complicated trigger based off an event that is kind of hard to generate. Here you can use a Postman-like interface to generate your own test events and create an HTTP request to mock from. But we have a real one, so we'll continue on. So the first thing we want to do is pipe this over to Slack. So we can use Slack and use one of our pre-built actions, or you can use Node.js or Python if you choose. I'll go into that more detail later, but for now, we're going to pick a pre-built action because we only have so much time. I'm going to select the Slack account, and here you can see I have several different accounts hooked up, but connecting an account is as simple as going through an OAuth flow, which we handle for you. Or if it's API keys, then you can enter in your API keys, and we'll enter that. We'll use that for the pre-built action. You don't have to worry about OAuth heartbeat refreshing, nothing like that. We handle it for you. And here you can see you can pick a channel ID to post the message to, and we need to actually enter in some text. So here I'm going to say new order with a new line character to make a space. And here I can search across all the steps within our workflow. We only have one step for now, it's the trigger. So I'm going to search for the price, maybe, show the price. What do you call the price? Amount, should look at amount. So you can look for amount, and here you can see a subtotal and the total. I'll select the total of the order. And then I'm going to send it with from the customer's email. So we can attribute this to a customer. So we're going to search by email, and there's click select path. It's easy as that. So in this text field, you probably noticed that there's some markdown, and there's also these handlebar expressions. These evaluate JavaScript inside of the brackets. It's just a way of triggering a JavaScript evaluator. And that's why we can access this object and drill down into it. There's other options that are available, like adding emoji, sending as a specific user, all kinds of things that the Stripe API supports, or sorry, Slack. But we're just going to test this for now. And it's going to actually use the data within our test event up here and populate the dynamic data in the Slack message. So I'm going to head back to Slack here, and you can see new order 1,000. Well, it's actually $100. And it's from me. So yeah, we just connected Stripe and Slack without really any code in less than 5 minutes. You can see how this is a little bit, it's not ideal. One, I messed up Markdown. Stripe doesn't support double asterisks. The other is that this isn't very helpful. It says $10,000, which is not accurate. The reason why it's not accurate is because Stripe will not use cents or decimal points. They just chimes everything by 100. Let's fix that. So I'm going to go back to our workflow here. I'm going to fix this amount total section with some node in between. You can run node code arbitrarily or Python code arbitrarily in Pipedream. What's also nice is you can edit with AI. So I'm going to ask this AI portion to, let's convert the number in steps.trigger body data, the amount total, or divide the number, sorry, divide the number by 100. Now this is a really simple example, but you can imagine how this AI can shortcut and save you a bunch of time if you need to integrate with an API. If you need to send data to a specific API endpoint, you could spend the time to look up the endpoint and to figure out which parameters are accepted, or you could just tell Pipedream to generate that code for you. In this case, it did divide the amount by 100. We can use this code and then test it. And hopefully it will work correctly. I have a feeling it will. It's pretty correct to me. And it returned the whole result, which is interesting. That doesn't seem correct. I think we might have a bug going on. Amount total is correct, divided by 100. Huh. It seems like it just took the step export from the trigger. That was really weird. Sorry about that. But yes, we have the correct amount right here. We'll copy the path, and then we can replace it here in our Slack message. And don't forget that $, so it's a lot easier to understand. But you know what? We could do a little bit better. Can we ask it to edit? We can edit it with AI and say, and also round to the nearest 2 decimal places. Let's see if the AI can figure this one out. I think so. I think it's smart enough to divide by 100 and round. So we're going to use this, and we're going to test it again. Hopefully it gives us $100 even, but I think I know where the bug is if there is a bug. Yeah, it's times it by 100 twice, which is not a big deal. We'll just remove this part. Remove this part and then round by 2. Sometimes math and AI don't play so well. It's also possible that it's just returning an integer, like math.round returns an integer in this case. But regardless, we fixed it for the most part. I'm just going to go ahead and go through this because we don't have so much time. So we're going to test this once more, and you can see how without even deploying, we made changes to the workflow. We can test within each step in isolation, and it will actually update the code and send the message in Slack with this new amount. So that's really basic end-to-end workflow. And then you can deploy it using this deploy button, which makes it live. And any new Stripe webhooks coming in will trigger this workflow and run exactly the code that you tested. So like I said at the beginning of the call, the beginning of the workflow, there's some more advanced settings. So say you're using some more data intensive applications that store files, or maybe they process video. In that case, you can increase the memory available to the workflow up to 10 gigs. And then, or sorry, not 10 gigs, but 2 gigs. And you can increase the timeout if needed to up to 12.5 minutes. This will adjust your pricing a little bit, and I'll talk about that later. But down here, there's actually more sophisticated controls as well. So if the workflow fails, then you can have it retry. Say you run into an API outage that the workflow talks to, Stripe goes down or Slack goes down, then it'll automatically retry the workflow. And you can also limit concurrency to respect API limits. So if Google Sheets, for example, will only allow you to send write one row at a time, 1 per second. So in that case, if you needed to respect their API limit, then you could limit the execution rate to 1 every 60 seconds, and you could set your workers to 1 and queue size to 1. And that will make sure that only 1 worker is running, and it only runs once the execution every 60 seconds. And then there's cold starts. So say, for those who don't know, underneath all Pipedream workflows, they're all running on Lambdas under the hood, which allows it to scale near infinitely, which is why we have these timeout memory limits. But for some of your workflows, you may need to respond within a certain amount of time frame. And serverless functions can go cold to save you money, whereas you may want the opposite of that. You may want workers online, so that way you can always respond and not allow your workers to go cold. And here's where you can adjust that. A practical example is Slack, because Slack requires a response within, I believe, a second or 2 seconds, in order for in order for it to be accepted. I think it's for interactivity events. You can't have a delay more than 2 seconds for the API to accept the request. And then this one's a newer one. This is really neat. So say you're connected to MongoDB, but you don't want your MongoDB to be accessible from anywhere on the internet. You want to only allow specific IP addresses to connect to your MongoDB instance. Same goes for maybe a private on-prem application or a private API, another database like Postgre. This VPC feature allows you to dedicate your outbound workflow requests and bind them to a specific IP address. So that way they're always coming from one specific IP address instead of from anywhere in the US East 1 region. So yeah, that covers the really advanced portions of a workflow. Other cool things that you might have been playing with, but maybe don't know a ton about, data stores. Data stores is a simple key value store that you can use within your workflows. I'm using it here to track subreddits on a web scraper, and then you can retrieve that data within a workflow. So here I am iterating over track subreddits. So every hour my workflow is going out. It's using a data store and retrieving that value and then just emitting events from that. You can use data stores in code. You can use it in Node.js or Python, or you can use it within a pre-built action. So to see it, you can just simply create a new workflow called data stores. Make a new workflow and then search for data stores. And here's a list of pre-built actions that really quickly get store, retrieve data, or delete data, check for data, that kind of thing. It's really handy. It stores state between workflows, and it's independent of workflows. It's under its own kind of section. The other really, really cool thing is the ability to create your own actions. So for those who don't know, all of the actions and triggers and workflows are all open source. So you can see them all under our public Pipedream GitHub repository. So whenever you choose one of these apps, you're actually using one of the components here within Pipedream. So for Slack, when we used in our example, we were actually using this code here, actions public. Trying to find the one that we use. Send message in public channel. So yeah, the code is right here. You can fork it. You can make a private action, fork it, publish it to your account as a private action, or write your own without publishing back to Pipedream, or you can make a pull request and merge your actions back into Pipedream. If you want to advertise your SaaS, for example, or make it easier for your users to use Pipedream to connect your SaaS to other applications, you can do so and add your code here. That goes for triggers as well. You can write your own triggers from scratch. They're called sources in Pipedream. So here's a source that will emit an event to your workflows whenever a keyword is mentioned in a channel. So you can track certain keywords by mention. Yeah, so you can build these privately or publicly. It's up to you. So that covers the really advanced portions of Pipedream from start to finish. The other area I kind of want to cover is what these features I talked about are available at. So within Pipedream, we have different tiers of pricing. The most popular one is our advanced tier. We have, in that you have unlimited workflows, you have unlimited connected accounts, and you have that access to the GitHub sync feature where you can actually version control your changes in GitHub. And you can eliminate cold starts and use that AI assisted development code generation that I just showed you. You also have access to the auto retries and extended event history, which I probably should just spend a second to talk about. Here is where you can see all of your workflow runs in a single pane of glass. So you can see all your errors and exactly how they failed, what error was caused, and the workflows trigger, as well as the exported data. This is available for all pricing, but the extended event history is only available for advanced and above. So this is really our most popular option, but what separates this from the more expensive business tier is the VPCs, like I mentioned before, where you can whitelist a specific IP address, and your workflows will use that instead of their own dynamic IP addresses. And then also we just added the ability to have your own custom webhook domain. So you can use yourdomain.com instead of pipedream.com for your webhooks. Of course, SSO is available on the business tier. You also get a dedicated Slack channel where you can talk to us if you have any issues. You have direct access to staff in a live chat. When you go down to the basic and free tiers, the big difference between that and our advanced plans is it's limiting based on the number of workflows. So you do not get unlimited workflows or connected accounts, and you do not have access to email support for specific workflow issues. You can send and request for account issues and subscription issues. So you have all the functionality of Pipedream, but it's just limited on the support level and the more advanced features and the number of workflows you can use. But when it does come to support, like I mentioned, we do have a community. You can join our Slack if you haven't yet already. I really encourage it. There's a bot in the community where you can ask it code-like questions and it will respond with Pipedream compatible code. It's really neat. The connect with a partner. This is a way to get hired help for a large project, or if you just need help coding something, you can connect with a Pipedream partner here. And then you can also watch our university courses, which are these bite-sized videos. They're 5 minutes long each, and they'll teach you everything from developing workflows to using code steps and developing your own components from scratch. And you can just learn for free, just a few minutes at a time. Some of these are less than 5 minutes. They're designed to just watch quickly on your lunch break or on the bus or train. Please don't watch them while you drive. And then the last is our documentation. Our documentation is really robust. We're very proud of it. You can see you can see every single type of resource available in Pipedream, and even code level help, like sending out HTTP requests and resuming workflows. There's examples. It's very, very robust and rich. So I definitely recommend reading this as well. So thanks for walking through that with me. I know that was probably basic for a lot of you because you're developers and you may be already interested and been using Pipedream for a while. So I'm happy to open the floor to answer any questions you might have, or cover some new features coming out this week if you'd like to see that. So any questions?
Can you take a minute and talk about like what it would look like doing an integration between, say, like a relational database like MySQL and ChatGPT?
Sure. So just on a basic level, let's just call this database to GPT or OpenAI. Are you asking if this workflow is triggered by a change in a database, or
I'm just curious as to the options there and what an integration would look like. I don't really have a question. I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough to kind of ask a question about your product yet.
Oh, okay. So there's many different types of relational based databases. You have MySQL, and you have Postgre, like I mentioned. And there's also like hosted services like Supabase, which are relational. But say you're using MySQL, and here you can use pre-built actions to find a row based on a query, or you can use Node.js, and you can literally just use Node.js code and execute a query, which will return the data, and you can use that data downstream. I should start using relational databases for demos more often, but I don't have a working example myself at this moment. what I'll do is I'll just return a mock, and I'll just say like, return, let's pretend we're getting prompts from a database. I don't know. Maybe you store prompts in your database. So generate a Node.js code for retrieving content of a URL. I don't know, like a web scraper prompt maybe. So we pretend that our MySQL step is returning that kind of data. It's going to yell at me because I haven't set up the oh, I have. So I connected our own MySQL database credentials. So go and connect. Yeah, I'm not totally surprised. I probably have all the credentials. But then to connect to OpenAI, then you would just search for OpenAI, and it's the same thing. You can use ChatGPT with a pre-built action. So here's a pre-built action, and you can choose your model, and then you can pipe in that those queries from your database. It's the same kind of process that I showed you with Stripe, where you can select variables that are coming from one step and then just pipe them to the next step. And ChatGPT is already supported.
Gotcha. So would ChatGPT, so would essentially that mean like I could have a query that delivers a payload to ChatGPT and have prompts in ChatGPT that run over that to deliver a result?
Yeah. So in this really trivial case, you would just pipe in your prompts. It's stored dynamically, or maybe you already have a set system prompts,
right?
That you can set here. You are a helpful customer support agent, and then you would pipe in, say, the message from MySQL. In this case, it'd probably be from like Zendesk or Help Scout or any one of those help
Gotcha.
ticket desk providers, and then you could just implement steps dot. There would be like a help desk return value, and then that would pipe the message in here. It would actually give you a response. I'm just going to test it here to give you an idea of what the response looks like from GPT. So successfully sent the response, and here's our big message from GPT. Hello, I'm doing great. How can I help assist you today? So they can just copy the reference to that path and then make a response over email or over Help Scout, whatever. So yeah, the connections between apps is normalized. It's just up to you to pick which apps, which steps fit best for the problem you're solving. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Yeah, in the future, we'll definitely do another video that shows a relational database specifically. I think I have a few on our YouTube account where we use Supabase as an example, just because it's so easy to log into Supabase and make a quick relational database. Yeah, that's one of the most common scenarios is pulling data from somewhere, acting on it, pushing it somewhere else. That's our bread and butter.
That makes sense. How does ChatGPT receive that data from the database essentially? That's I guess where my gap is. Like, an API to API kind of really makes sense. What I'm kind of looking at is like, can I have a query that pulls a bunch of financial data and then have ChatGPT analyze that and give me back a result, on a recurring basis?
Yep. So Pipedream normalizes all connections. So under the hood, it's all JSON that's being transferred in between steps. So anything that's JSON serializable, Pipedream supports. So you could choose Mongo.
Gotcha.
And there will be a Mongo connector between, there's a Mongo client. So it's all Node, Mongo client, and then you make your query down here. Or you can use.
One more time.
Yeah, so
Please gotta hold it.
the connector is just JSON between apps.
Hello.
Sorry, Andrew.
Hey.
I'm muted for a second. Sorry about that. So yeah, it's just, you can think about it, APIs, you can even use SSH if you wanted to, even SSH connector. Yeah.
And you said so everything we're configuring here gets stored in a repo, right? In GitHub, so that's like the version control over what's happening here. And is that all written as JSON as well?
So JSON is
objects,
data transfer, and the code itself is Node.js. So you can
Oh,
see,
gotcha. Okay, I see.
this is Node.js, and the common connections between steps is just stored in JSON and retrieved in JSON.
That makes sense.
The most common, so if I wanted to show you, whoops, sorry, I lost control here. Here we go, sorry. So say we just grab some data from MySQL. The end result of the data from MySQL will be like key values of rows. So in your financial data, you probably have a map column. So it'd be 1099. Maybe the transaction type is a refund, maybe. I don't know.
Gotcha. Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be how the system would store this data from MySQL. Now it's within the workflow. You can see, you can reference it as an export from this step. So now it's turned into JSON, and all you're doing is reusing that in another step.
Right. So you could use what that returns that could be, those tokens can be used in the prompt itself.
Yep. So this is the prompts. This is the user message. You can use it in the prompt. You can use it maybe as temperature. Say, you know, you can use it for any one of these prompts.
Right. Pretty flexible. That's cool.
Yeah. So whatever you need. If you wanted to like customize the prompt a lot, you could using you know, MySQL to store the customizations between prompts.
Gotcha.
We do this a lot. I mean, this same kind of workflow is used by Pi within Pipedream. So like I mentioned, if you guys haven't been yet, the Pipedream Slack has an AI tool called Pi, and that's how it works. Is it takes in queries from Slack, it'll copy this text and then run it through OpenAI and then respond in Slack. So that is that's pretty much, it's a shortened version of how that works, but yeah, that's how it works.
That's helpful. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we went a bit over. Thanks to everyone for your time. Appreciate you joining. If you have any more questions, yeah, please feel free to join our Slack channel. We're always on there, and feel free to reach out.